We measured our size, joints, longer than the tires, and made cutouts the actual
Military pilot Domenico Leggero.
off-roaders here recently. Our Jeep Wrangler Unlimited showed up to the shop nearly stocked. That didn't last long. We installed long arms, green heavens, this spring.
Mi ha detto, quando gli ho detto, ma questo, mi ha detto, era un periodo, mi ha detto, che avevo paura di entrare dentro la mattina, dentro alla stalla. Erano...
io avessi con lei, avevo la media, giungo la media io, così ti un mio si tutta questa imparata, facciamo capire, facciamo con lei. No, cosa se che fatto la che oggi io non mi che una la mia dinanzi di funziona e nel mondo come io credo che uno magari la spiega si lo posso
The once prosperous Herero, having lost their land and their much prized cattle after the genocide, now live, for the most part, in poverty. Just like everyone else here, Benoni Kawi is struggling to survive. Without some kind of intervention, her children are unlikely to escape the cycle of poverty. And making life even harder, the government had recently decreed that they must move to an even more remote location.
Imaginación a cabo, los colectivos,
tiempo yo con Eric.
That's too much. It's too emotional for me. Without it, I'll abandon them.
And it's not just in the villages that poverty amongst the Herero is rife. It's the same in urban areas. Swakopmund is a coastal town popular with German tourists. But on the outskirts of the town, Herero people live in bleak, informal settlements. Lawrence Ndura moves from the countryside to the city in search of a better life.
He has been here for 9 years now, at this place. And this is where he lives. No electricity, no running water. The only little down of drought. And so there's no work. So the best they can come is come here, try to forage some food from in the city.
Lawrence invites Jetta into his home.
Traditional feast. Are you saying that? You tell us here.
This the time of the genocide.
Lawrence tells us that to make ends meet, his girlfriend sells these dolls to German tourists.
Before the genocide, my great grandfather was involved in the concentration camp. Was it the Luther's concentration camp?
The Luther's concentration.
Yeah, between 1904 and 1908. Genocide.
So what do you think about the Germans today?
Today, they have to pay for what they did to our grandparent. Because that one is the one that take long in our lifetime. Money is the only thing that can make changes. We can buy our land back, buy our animals, and then we start with farming process. Yeah, we feel that we are in a concentration camp. Because the life that we are living here is not good to us.
These young people over here you see running in the streets over here, they will have nothing to lose but to demand their land back. And that's exactly what's going to happen. This situation is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable.
This sense of economic and political marginalization among the Herero has heightened their mistrust of SWAPO, the ruling party in Namibia since 1990. It's amplified the feeling that the government mishandled the genocide negotiations with Germany. We tried to put this to the Namibian government, but despite numerous requests, no government official granted us an interview. We did, however, manage to speak to Professor Fanuel Kapama, one of Namibia's chief negotiators. He himself is Herero.
My great-grandmother was a brother of Samuel Maharero, who led the Maharero people during the war of colonial resistance.
Kapama told us the agreement was the best the Namibian government could achieve, given Germany's tough negotiating tactics.
They have always shied away from even mentioning the word genocide. But the bigger challenge was on the one which has remained a very key issue to the point that it almost derailed. Then there is no reference to the word reparation.
The negotiations, in our view, have been for political and moral reasons. It was not a legal question. We avoided legal speech to avoid this kind of misunderstanding, and reparation is a legal term, and therefore we spoke about healing the wounds, which means in a sense probably the same, but not in a legal term.
But Kapama says the negotiations were less about healing wounds than they were about avoiding legal liability.
That was a very heavy debate. Later on, they came around and said that, okay, if we agree to pay reparation, then we will do away with development aid. He said, no, those are two different things for the victim community.
And there's a good reason why Germany is keen to avoid any payments being labeled as reparations. Henning Melber, a Namibian academic, explains why.
There were war crimes during World War II committed in Italy, in Greece, in Poland, and in other Eastern European societies, where local courts there ruled that the German government should pay reparations to the descendants.
Germany has refused to accept liability for such claims. Melba says if reparations were paid to Namibia, that might set a legal precedent.
Then these rulings would be seen in another light, and then it would become really expensive for Germany.
So, with direct reparations seemingly off the table, what about the Herero demand that they should get their land, or at least some of it, returned to them? Any discussion about the return of land must involve its current owners, mostly white Namibian farmers who possess vast tracts of it. Gerd Bobling is a German Namibian who speaks fluent Herero. He owns a 15,000-hectare farm in the Waterberg, the region which used to be inhabited by the Herero until the Germans began their campaign of annihilation against them in 1904.
My great-great-grandfather came here in 1907, which was just after the German Herero, and farming here and living in close relationship with the Herero communities bordering to our fence, and it's very much farming related, but of course it brings together our different cultures as well.
But when it comes to addressing the past, Bobling, like other white German Namibian farmers in the region, deny that this land used to belong to the Herero.
This land was 100 years before that, it was
In the 1950s.
not inhabited by Herero-speaking people, to the knowledge I do have.
While touring the farm, Jetta raises the land issue.
I don't think just buying land and giving it back will improve the situation dramatically. I doubt that one. I think we have to develop the area, we have to develop the people, investing in a better tomorrow, like education and infrastructure, schools and hospitals, that people really feel that their life is improving.
Jetta wants to know if they can reach a common understanding about the past.
Do you deny that there was a genocide, or you don't deny it? I mean, I don't question the harm which was done to our Herero people. They lost many of their land, they lost almost all their cattle, and they lost half of the population.
Yet Bobling doesn't believe the mass murder of Herero was sanctioned by the government of the time.
If there would have been the initial thought of eradicating a certain tribe, but there was not the intention, and the relationship to the Holocaust is for me, it is far-fetched.
But Jetta's next visit illustrates that for many Herero, historical links between the genocide and the Holocaust aren't far-fetched at all. He travels to Shark Island, which was once a notorious concentration camp. Herero and Nama, who survived death in the desert, were brought here and used as slave labor.
This site is where our ancestors were kept, and the Germans set up this concentration camp, and they used to call, historians call it the death camp. My great-grandmother was at this site, and likely later when the people started complaining, she was transferred to Swampoport.
But most of the Herero and Nama who were held here didn't survive.
A lot of people perished. Death and starvation were killed a lot of people over here, and when they died, their body was thrown in the sea.
And those who weren't worked to death were subjected to other horrors.
And this is why they did the medical experiment on the Nama and Herero people. Medical experiment. Based on my grandmother, they were fascinated with some of the Herero people. They have like a blood, their gums are like darker than others. So they will scrape that until it bleeds to find out what is the cause of that. I don't know what was the whole point, but the bottom line is this was their biggest fear was to go, you are not going to be alive.
In that medical center, prisoners were subjected to many forms of systematic atrocities, like being injected with diseases like smallpox, typhus, and tuberculosis, or poisons like arsenic.
They were also used as human material for eugenic research.
In order to conduct this pseudo-scientific research, German doctors sent the skulls of deceased prisoners back to Germany.
Thousands of human remains, skulls, skeletons, and so on, were transported back to the German Empire. Those human remains are in German basements of museums, of hospitals. And only in 2011, I think, for the first time, a few of them were returned to Namibia.
The man overseeing these inhumane practices was Dr. Eugene Fischer. He and other colonial officials
later became prominent leading figures in the race ideology of Nazi Germany.
These are archives.
but there is no official recognition at Shark Island of the crimes which were perpetrated here.
There is no mention about the Hereros at all. It's now a camping site, so I'm sure a lot of Germans, they come here and camp, and Namibians, they come and camp as if this is just a normal place.
So where to now for the Herero in their struggles for justice and reparations?
When you say to German Namibians, you say there wasn't a genocide here, that's not fair.
What do I say to them? Nothing. We are going to get our land back. And how we're going to take it, I don't know. But we all have said it. Just the way I was saying that one day Germany will be willing to apologize for Holly, just the way I was saying that Germany one day will pay reparation, even though they're saying we are going to give you like a gesture for development. And it will happen. The Herero people are resilient people. From what we have gone through, what my people have gone through, from genocide, disposition, concentration camp, and for my father and my grandparents to regain, to reconstitute themselves and send me to school. And they walk straight. They didn't walk with their head down. And so that's the way I'm going to walk. I will walk straight with my head up.
Material for eugenic research.
They were starved, enslaved, and exterminated, many dying in concentration camps. Germany offered 1.1 billion euros over 30 years, but called it development aid and not reparations. The descendants of the victims rejected the offer. Today, many Herero and Nama still live in poverty, dispossessed of land, wealth, and recognition. Germany has apologized, but still doesn't use the word reparations, avoiding legal accountability.
The negotiations, in our view, have been for political and moral reasons. And reparation is a legal term, and therefore we spoke about healing the wounds.
But for the Nama and Herero, the fight continues for land, for reparations, and for justice.
Hello, my name is Devin Ferrari, Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor.
Right in the centre of Stavanger,
Data. We're using more and more all the time. Sending text messages, storing photos in the cloud, watching videos online. Billions and billions of emails, documents, spreadsheets, calendars. And then there is AI. Hi, I'm Gemini. Its craving for data is extraordinary. But all this data must be stored somewhere. In big warehouses like this. Increasingly, these data centers are being built in areas where water is scarce, like Mexico.
Imagínense, aquí tenemos a nuestros niños en la escuela una semana para no venir a clase por lo mismo de la falta de agua, que no se va a cosechar porque no va a llover, hay pronósticos de que no hay lluvia. Son 8:35, no hay agua. No hay agua.
Data's thirst for water is unquenchable, and the natural resources required to serve the data center's demand are immense. Officials deny this.
Find systems of water. If the story everybody's telling that data centers.
Disse her småbåtene, busselskapene og guidekompaniene.
These people, for a whole day, have got their view blocked. And I don't know how many other cruise ships come in daily.
$250 a year.
Really?
Really?
It must be weird for them, all taking pictures of their houses.
It is what you expect when you live in a cruise ship town. That's why we don't live in it, I think.
Et sted må det være et stopp. Og det punktet har vi kommet til for en stund siden.
Welcome to Caracas. It will take us approximately 45 minutes to reach King's Landing.
It's beautiful, huh?
So the night is dark and full of terrors.
People are happy because you know that what you gave them wasn't just empty story. It was a good story. It was honest story.
Aren't you helping turning Dubrovnik into some sort of a Disneyland?
Well, that's what we are trying to avoid. You know, Dubrovnik is becoming Disneyland-ish, regardless of the Game of Thrones. So you have an opportunity to sail on a ship that the Daenerys Targaryen used to cross a narrow sea. And that was built on the front deck of our Caracas.
Different metals in the tumour, including chromium, tungsten and titanium. There's no metals industry around, but these are all used by the arms industry. Dr. Gatti believes Francesco was contaminated by dust from a big explosion.
Al secondo dell'attività fondamentale.
The science of nanoparticles is still new, but the World Health Organization says early signs show that fine material may be harmful to public health. The WHO is encouraging further research. Dr. Gatti has consulted two full parliamentary inquiries that looked into the activities of the Italian Defence Force.
Noi siamo stati finanziati per altri 3 milioni di euro con una partnership di 11 laboratori molto qualificati a livello europeo. E quindi lì abbiamo ovviamente verificato che queste nanoparticelle hanno libero accesso alla cellula. Sono stati 3 mesi di dolore intenso, dolore fisico, dolore alle camere. La morte te l'aspetti, può succedere, ma il dolore che lui ha avuto questi mesi, che mi rende
It's a 2-hour drive heading north out of Teolada to the Quira bombing range. This is the scene of tragic health stories and mysterious birth defects that have come to be dubbed the Quira syndrome. For many here, life is still slow and traditional. But at towns like Escalaplano, perched on the edge of the firing range, passions are inflamed.
Si parla di 186 morti a Quirra, di quelli conosciuti, ma quanti sono?
Non solo militari.
Non solo militari, ma la maggior parte sono quelli che operavano dentro il poligono di Quirra.
Quira is the biggest military test site in Europe. It's used by NATO countries as well as Israel. Those living nearby have known much tragedy. Dr. Gatti has become an advocate for some of the people of Quira. Maria Teresa already had 10 healthy children when her last child arrived in 1988. The baby girl was born so severely deformed, her mother has never let her photo be seen. She was baptized Maria Grazia. She was blind and couldn't move or speak.
Ringrazio chi l'ha conosciuta, non se l'è più scordata, sempre prima.
Escalaplano Cemetery is a sad testament. 1 in 4 of the children born in the same year as Maria Grazia had some kind of deformity.
Questi le volevo sulle braccia. Molto sulle braccia. Ci sono tornato da parte. Cosa più poco. Perché anche se era malata, Maria Grazia, io non ero pronto. Io non ero pronto.
Giampiero Scalù has tried to hold the military to account. He led a 2-year parliamentary inquiry. His committee met fierce resistance from the chiefs of defence.
Se non ci volevano far vedere certe cose, non ce le hanno fatte vedere. Nei poligoni si poteva fare quello che si voleva, perché non c'era nessun controllo.
We've made repeated attempts to speak to the military during our research for this story, but we've been blocked at every turn. Now this document, dated 2011, has come our way. It's a confidential Ministry of Defence memo instructing military officials on how to respond to questions about the health and environmental conditions in and around the bombing sites. What stands out is what they're told to say about birth defects. They're told to explain it away with a shocking allegation that children born with deformities are the result of inbreeding.
No, cominciate a fare
This is General Fabio Montini, a former head of the Quira base. He's caught on Swiss TV delivering that key message. There's no evidence to support that claim. The children born with disabilities were conceived in the late 80s, when old munitions, bombs and rockets were being routinely disposed of at Quira. They were blown up in a pit 20 metres deep and 40 metres wide.
Lei sì, non solo io, ma tutti hanno visto.
E com'era?
La polverina era rossa.
Venezia og Barcelona. Da er vi over i noe vi kaller people pollution. Og det er jo ikke bra. Det er veldig dårlig for gjestene og det er veldig dårlig for fastboende. Og det er masseturisme.
Anders has allies in the fight against the cruisers. Last year, media all over the world published this picture of a local politician in another Norwegian fjord protesting naked against the cruise ship invaders.
De finleste alt som var bygningslover og sånt, og så får du paragrafer og...
Of course, the municipality does well financially from the influx of tourists, but the environment clearly suffers too. Recent studies have shown that a big cruise ship emits as many particles a day as the traffic of a medium-sized city with around 500,000 cars. And what's more, the vessels release up to 3 times more CO2 per passenger kilometre than an aircraft. That has huge consequences for global warming. Today, one of the very largest cruise ships
Some
In Togo, cocoa farming is the main source of income for some 20,000 families. But 6 out of 10 of those farmers live in dire poverty. Cocoa farms in Togo are typically small and family-run, each covering an average of about 5 acres of land. Omran and his wife sell their cocoa beans through the village cooperative. Foreign companies then buy up